Hi, everyone. I'm going to give everyone just a few seconds to join, and then we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, and let's get started. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to our 36th Town Hall. Let's get started. First, we have a update from PeopleOps. We are actively hiring for 2 roles, as you can see listed here, developer advocate / technical writer and product designer. If you know anybody who would be great for these positions, don't forget about our referral program. And just a reminder that we have the offsite coming up in September, so please make yourself available for those dates. And more information will be coming soon. Now let's hop over to Nabil with a janitor update. Nabil?
Hey everyone, just a quick update on the things that we're working on. So V1 is still the priority. The timelines, you can see here the delta between this town hall and the previous town hall. So to the right of the green bars, you can see the number of days that have changed. So multi-account is still looking like towards the end of July. We have a couple of the onboarding and profile client-facing elements that are probably going to be worked on for another month or so. And then following all of that, we have our security audit. A quick word on timelines. I think it's important for us to maintain accuracy of like a realistic amount of work. We had a deadline at the end of the quarter, and I think that's probably unrealistic given the amount of work that we need to put into status V1. So keep updating the timelines with realistic estimates, and I think that's probably a better way for us to start getting estimates on when things will get done and completed. And the more work that's in there, the more we'll be able to make sure that we don't underestimate the amount of work that's left. On the next slide, you can see kind of a pie chart-based progress update. So we're out of 186 total issues, 79 of them are completed. That pie chart has definitely gotten bigger since last time. And if you are, if you do want to have a play around with it, check out. Right, there's a lot of cool visualizations you can do, and yeah. So that's essentially a quick update. We're looking at probably a code freeze towards the end of July, based on the amount of work that's still left between to get V1 done. Any questions? We can discuss it at the end of the town hall. You can ping me privately or ping Rachel Hister, any of the janitors, or anything like that. Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Nabil. All right, jumping next, we have Corey with Token Economics. Corey.
Hello. So last week we kicked off the article series with ENS usernames. That article is live. You can find it at the top of our.status.im. Also, you can check out the discuss post linked in here for their conversation, and a linked Q&A that me and Barry did for a bunch of community questions. We plan on doing those as much as possible. So please go read that, play with the variables, see how they work, give us feedback. And also you can find us in the Token Economics channel to chat about all things regarding this work. Up next, we plan to do the sticker market. Originally want to do the DApp store, but Andy's gone and there's some other modeling we want to add to it. So that's in progress. The sticker market article's in progress. It's a different model than just locking up capital and assuming it's going to be gone for a long time. This gives us an opportunity to explain the concept of token velocity, which I think is quite neat, and how it plays into the value of SNT. And also a complete kind of future goal of this work is to kind of help evaluate whether or not projects are worthwhile to start. And so if you have ideas on this, or what type of things we should be tracking based on a project that hasn't been modeled yet, go into the channel, let us know, and we can start that conversation on trying to help evaluate if you think work that needs to be done has any kind of impact, or how we could look at the potential impact of what it is to status. So I'll continue here, I guess, with security updates. We also last week integrated Critic, which is a new product from TrailBits that we're testing out for them. So this is a GitHub integration that links into various repositories that have Solidity smart contracts. And what it does is runs a series of checks, mostly using right now their tool called Slither, for any problems with the Solidity contract for every commit or pull request you make on that repository. It uses the already established GitHub permissions that we set up through the status organization. So anything that you have access to within status, you should be able to log into critic.io and see whatever I've linked, or link it yourself. And this should help us quite drastically prepare for audits. So making sure you squash all of these bugs within GitHub every time you make a commit or think you're done with a project. This helps me and auditors figure out what work needs to be done, or not have them spend time on work that we can do ourselves. Also helps us stay on top of current smart contract vulnerabilities and best practices as they continue to increase the checks and the capabilities of their backend tools. They'll automatically get rolled into this integration. So all we have to do is basically make smart contracts and check to make sure they're following best practices. And also something that's been really important for me is the ability to see what has been done, what problems there were, and how they were fixed. So I can get a better overview, or auditors can get a better overview of kind of how we approach fixing bugs and how we do that. And we have a history to point to for the community to say, oh, we had this issue, this is how it got fixed. So you can feel better about the deployed smart contract in mainnet. So future versions of this, this is a brand new product from them, kind of part of our retainer to work on this, and something I've been wanting for a while. But they'll be integrating a lot of their other tooling to automatically work as well, to give us more robust feedback when we do smart contract development. So if you're doing any smart contract work within status or elsewhere and want to know more, or get your repo starting to get looked at and integrated, just contact me and we'll get it done.
Great, thanks, Corey. Interesting stuff. All right, now we are hopping over to Swarm updates. Our Swarm updates will be relatively quick this week, as we have a few people who are out due to the holiday. So let's get started with Igor and core improvements. You're up first.
Yep. So yeah, core improvements as usually focuses on performance and network reliability and stuff like that. So in this case, it's a little bit mixing together with the protocol stuff, and sometimes mixing together with let's say core UI. So it's so first thing that we do like protocol negotiation. What it helps us to do is to actually get rid of this shared topic for one-on-one chats, and essentially what for end users it would be just less traffic per day. Essentially, then we are continuing to moving protocol to status go, which should improve performance of our React code, because we'll just do less stuff in the React things. And we implemented the first chunk of this work out of 3. I would say it's like we're like around 1/3 way into there. And the next thing is we are testing out the speeding up of mail server that Andrea did. And we tested it on a test fleet, and it looks okay. And it's actually brings some, I think it's a 30% faster sync, something along these lines, if I remember correctly. But yeah, we need to also test it on stage and beta because they have much more data than the test fleet. So we'll see. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less improvements there. And then are like some generic improvements. Roman is continuing working on splitting our huge JavaScript file that we load at startup into modules, so we don't load the things that are not needed for us, and also some other miscellaneous fixes. But yeah, and also in here, we also, like Eric also helped to improve like at 30%, like our chat formatting itself, but it's still very slow. So there is still an open issue for that. So we need to work on this a little bit more. And the next thing is we're working a little bit on the reproducible Android builds. And I guess right now the main obstacle is the minification of JavaScript, which we can turn off obviously for the performance reasons. So Pedro is right now working on solving this issue to make this reproducible. And the one more thing that's like almost done is Dmitry is working on the wallet API, which helps to make our wallet like essentially like transaction history and token transaction history a bit smoother, faster, and yeah. Because we used to re-request data over and over again from Etherscan. Right now, first, we won't use Etherscan anymore, so one dependency less. And also, it will be faster because we'll persist data and things like this. And I have one more slide, I guess. Yeah, there is one more thing that we're working on is the performance goals. And basically, we took some really fast app, and we decided on the 3 types of devices, like low end, middle end, and fast. And high end, like low end, is around, I think it's Galaxy S4-ish device. So it's we're mostly focusing on Android right now because, first of all, performance is usually less of a problem on iOS, and second of all, because of all these App Store rules, we might need special treatment for iOS application. So in the top, you see the data for the fast app, and colors here means like green. It means that the person feels the interaction as instantaneous. So, and 1 second, like less than 1 second, means that there is a delay. It's visible, but it's not hard to keep your attention there. And again, and more than 1 second, it's like orange, or between 1 second and 10 seconds. It's like you have to actively keep your attention on this task to be able to wait for this time. And then we had a release on March 27, and then we are trying to build the release build because it makes sense only to compare release builds because they have additional performance optimizations between each other. And first of all, that you can see is it looks like we digressed in what it's called interactions, but it's actually it's a first column, but it's actually just due to how we measure this stuff. So essentially interactions for us is when you tap on a chat list until you see all the messages. And right now to make the whole interaction a bit smoother, we delay loading messages while the navigation happens. So it doesn't interact with this animation and this kind of touch response. And and since we delay them, they're appearing slow, like further away in the timeline. So it looks like it's slower, but we also need to fix this rendering issue with the chat messages that we found. So that I hope they will return to numbers that are faster. So we're already pretty cool at restoring when the app was launched and it was in the background to foreground. And then the startup time, as you see, it's improved from like 2.9 seconds to 196 on a fast devices, so it's around 30%. On a slower devices, it's about 20% improvement. And also the sync was a little bit better in the current one, but that's not as I understand, it's not including the new updates of the mail servers that are not there yet. And the last thing here, it's the target times. So what we're trying to achieve realistically, like the date right now might be discussable right now, but yeah, foreground is still should be very fast. Theoretically, we can achieve startup time in like around 2 seconds, maybe a bit less on the fast devices, and around 5 seconds on the really slow ones. And then for sync, we need to investigate a bit more, taking into account network conditions, and it's a little bit more variables here, so we didn't decide on these numbers just yet. And I guess that's all for me. Thank you.
Great, thanks you guys, great stuff. All right, next we have Andre with Core UI and 2 demos. So Andre?
I'm actually going to do this slide and then Andre will give a demo of 2. Yeah, we've got 2. Well, we've actually got 3 big PRs in review right now. one dealing with the wallet screen, one dealing with native ENS registration, and then one dealing with the new onboarding flow. The wallet and the onboarding work that's been done set us up to offer the new PIN code login, as well as key card support and multi-account support. And Andre will demo both of those, maybe Andre and Vitaly, after this slide. So that's been some great work by Andre, Julian, and Vitaly over the past few weeks. Eric, meanwhile, has made some performance improvements to the way that we render chat messages, so we have more efficiency there. And I believe he's also started work on integrating the new Status Go wallet API into React. And also generally preparing for other API changes that need to happen in React in order to support multi-account. And I think that Andre is also, Accounts Explorer work in progress is probably referring to the UI for multi-account. We've got GitHub issues for those in place, but we'll have a status update on that tomorrow during our sync. So that's it from me, and I'll just pass it over to Andre, I believe, for a demo.
Demos. Yeah, so here is onboarding demo. It's still work in progress, but you can see here introduction pictures and here description for key pairs, and the user may select the account, one from 5 generated accounts, and select the storage, is maybe device or key card. PIN code is now in progress. It's just UI here. And the welcome screen also still in progress. And next demo is for transaction overview screen. And here you can see sending assets from chat. And here we can see the sending 20 STT test STT and signing this password. Sign message and sign typed message. And deploying contract, so it's new contract. And sending assets from that. And also wallet, sending assets from wallet. And last one, currently we are discussing this, is approving amount from DAP. But this one still in discussion. Yeah, that's it.
Great demos. Thanks for sharing. Okay, next we have an update from Yuri on Status Teller Network. Yuri?
All right, so we had multiple sessions with various people to gather some feedback and test everything work as expected with the current DApp we have in Rickaby. I've been working most on has been to enable fee-less transactions for the buyers. We're still exploring multiple options, but the most promising right now seems to be to use the gas relayer solution. We've also been we're trying to finalize basically the incentive and punishments for arbiters and sellers, so we can finalize those parameters on the code. We've also been looking at confidential transactions, so it's not as much as priority as the above. And we're also starting to do preparations to do internal security audit ourselves on the code to proceed in an external audit.
All right, thanks, Yuri. All right, now we have protocol with Oscar. Oscar?
Hey everyone. So last few weeks, we got the sort of minimal version of DataSync fully functional end-to-end with some in-process simulation. Great work by Dean. So that's integrated into the status console client. As Igor already mentioned, we're sort of parallel with that preparing sort of console client and integrating into the app, which would then allow us to actually use DataSync in the app. Topic negotiation as well. The status rec part is mostly done, and hopefully get the rest of it done roughly this week. Then, as part of the Swarm Summit a few weeks ago, last week we had sort of another sort of kickoff call, and we've been doing some planning around sort of adaptive nodes, where it's essentially kind of a collaboration between us, some other products, and the Swarm team on creating sort of light clients and also more than light clients, sort of this adaptive node concept where the idea is that you can change mode depending on what capabilities you have. So for example, if you are connected to Wi-Fi, you might sort of be able to use more data. And if you're on a desktop or if you're plugged in and battery is not a consideration for you, then you might be able to do more things and so on. So we're working on that and sort of finalizing requirements in different phases. It will sort of be centered initially around PSS most likely, and creating sort of an open specification for that, so we can at some point create implementation in Nimbus and so on, as well as sort of the sort of Swarm BSS chunk feed kind of stuff, which will be useful for things like data sync when you have mostly offline devices and replacing our mail servers, as well as sort of some form of instrumentation around this and these types of things. And it's still in fairly early planning stage, but this will be a focus in Q3 going forward. And also as a sort of PSA, like the Swarm team is sort of aiming to have a production grade MVP at the end of August. So that means that things like chunk store and so on will hopefully be more stable, which will be useful for a lot of other domains outside of sort of communication protocols per se. Also did a bit of sort of testing in Jacek, Adria, and we were in Zurich after the Swarm Summit, and we did a bit of testing in terms of trying to get Nimbus into the app. It's just super hacky, but it's kind of working. You can sort of connect from Go to Nimbus and sort of use the Whisper protocol for that. It's sort of very hacky. There's lots of problems with it, and it's not integrated in Status Console client and so on, but it's not that far off. And what this would enable us to do is that at some point in the future, we can sort of switch to using Whisper, and we might sort of have status Go as a thin layer, but then sort of swap up the GEF part. And that would allow us to sort of use things like Nimbus Whisper implementation. We're going to do stuff with PSS and later on F2 and Plasma and all these kind of other products that are going on that are further down the horizon. So moving forward, we're going to sort of do more sort of simulation testing for MVDS, which will sort of inform to what extent we sort of where we actually turn it on for the app once it's integrated, and yeah, keep working on the sort of Swarm adaptive node stuff and so on. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Oscar. All right, that was it with our Swarm update. So now we have 2 questions from Q&A that were submitted from the Townhall questions group. So the first question was regarding custom NFTs. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Okay, the question was, now that custom ERC20 token support has been added to the wallet, is it both technically and feasibly possible to add custom ERC721 non-fungible token support? Does anybody have an answer for this question?
Does someone from the Core UI team want to take that?
I believe that it's possible to show, but it's possible to show only balance, because for showing details for this token, for example, description or picture, it's maybe difficult because, for example, we have 4 different collectibles implemented in status. We had to implement each collectible in a different way, in specific way. So this may be a problem. So I think extension may help here, but so answer is yes, we can add, but show only balance. We can show the details and picture.
Great. All right. And our next question was, have you considered switching from React Native to Flutter or native Swift Kotlin?
Yeah, I mean, I can help answer that on behalf of the discuss thread. So it has been considered. There's a thread there. So at the moment, the decision is to stick with React Native in order for our Android, iOS, and desktop clients to basically have feature parity. There's a lot of talk about having native clients specifically, and maybe that's something we can look into in the future. And I do think that there are valid points. I don't think that we've done enough to fully extend we haven't stretched the limits of React Native yet to say that for us to confidently say that going native is better. Is there anyone else who wants to chime in as well on this?
Yeah, I can add briefly to that. So I agree with everything that Billy just said. I think another important thing here is the fact that we is sort of the status of organization and contributors on this call and so on, but you guys listening and so on, what we want to do is with sort of the protocol work and specifications and so on, is that we enable multiple clients. And we've already seen this through some sort of implementations through Nimbus and also in JavaScript and so on. And we want to see sort of more implementations. So I think the way this is more likely to happen is it's not going to be sort of an official client, at least initially. But if someone wants to go ahead and do this and they have sort of clear rationale for it, I would encourage people to submit this sort of as a proposal to discuss for it and start the conversation there. And then maybe we can use that to hook into sort of our DAO for liquid funding and so on at some point. Because it's sort of useful to have multiple clients and sort of have some competition in terms of how well they serve our users, because it's supposed to be sort of an open network.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out to Oscar's points that with moving protocol to status Go and with like console client, the more and more APIs are like settled around status Go, and yeah, it's essentially you can use it like from Swift, from Kotlin, you can use it from Flutter, whatever your favorite. So if you want an alternative client, this work makes it easier and easier to just make an alternative status client in whatever technology that's useful.
Great, thanks guys. And we actually have one more question that was submitted from JB. And so I'm going to quickly jump back to the core improvement slide. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, and JB's question was, do we have a full or minimum performance expectation for startup and sync before we launch V1? Oh, that's on the slide, sorry. So
yeah, that's the lowest part. That's the target time. That's I mean, right now for sync is a little bit in flux right now, as I told, because we have to take network conditions into account and stuff like this. But we will figure out some at least threshold for that. But for for reacting to the taps and for switching from foreground to background and startup time, this is the most bottom target times by June 17th. Essentially, and these are different devices.
Great, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions about anything? All right, then that wraps up our town hall today. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Holler.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.